Today, Wednesday, August 15th, 2012, I'm going to install Windows 8 Pro 64-bit version. This is actually my third install. I've got a technique now where if we use UEFI BIOS, it's rather straightforward to get this thing installed. Very little tweaking needed at all. But we get it installed, but the tools is kind of old. I think the date was January, February. The tools that you end up with from VMware that are given from the host are old. So here we have ESXi host 5.0, update 1, I believe, and there's a much later version of tools available. So let me show you what I did here. Here's someone talking about the latest patches. The U1A is mostly about the vSphere server appliance. I'm not dealing with that right now. I really wanted the client patches. This website tells you to download them here, but I'm not seeing that website as very direct. So I found this site, Patch Manager Download Portal. If we change it to ESXi here, whoops, let's try that again. Select by product, change to ESXi 5.0, hit search. The very first hit at the top is the latest code. So you'll see I'll end up with a much newer version of ESX. 7001 is what it'll end with. Right now mine ends much older. Okay, so let's do that first. Get that out of the way and just do it right from the get-go. Now, how do we do that? Well, first we download. We wait for the zip file to be downloaded. Great. And I already did that just before recording this video. Next, it tells us about an offline procedure. Right over here, they tell us about a offline procedure and how to manually patch. I'm just used to one I wrote a while back, so I'm going to kind of use it as a crutch. So we've got SSH enabled first. So let's size these two windows. You can see things side by side. Excellent. And go into the host. Configuration. Security profile. Properties. SSH. Options. Mine set to start and stop automatically with the host. Or manually you could do, but either way mine started, so I'm good to go there. Next, we're ready to do WinSCP. Start, run, type WinSCP, and here we go. Let's go ahead and log in. Notice it's telling me, pointed to my ESX host IP. ESXi in this case, of course. Okay, now I'm in. Continuing. Drag and drop the file you downloaded. Okay, sounds good. Drag and drop. Sounds good to me. So, let me show you the file. Which is right here. Got the ISOs for Windows 8 itself, and we've got the patch file. So let's put that in the clipboard, copy, and now where is it telling me to put it? I put it in VMFS, volumes, and a certain data store that was kind of easy to type was really the reason I picked it. Basically, we needed to go somewhere that the server can see. So let's navigate our way to VMFS, volumes, SSD RAID 0 will be fine, and fast. So in this screenshot here, you'll see that's where I dumped it, right in the root of a data store. So if, okay, no right-click paste. So let's literally drag and drop. I did a right-click, drag, and I then selected copy. Default WinSCP settings should work fine. Okay, it takes a little while. All right, what's next? So we're well on our way here. We got the file over there. Let's prepare for the next step. putty into the ESXi host and get ready to type some stuff. Okay, sounds good. All right, ESXi host, double click. Excellent. We're in. Okay. We want to get into the right file system. Hitting tab, autocomplete's working nicely, and that's where our file is landing. So the zip file is going to show up right there. See how it says file part? It's not done yet. Okay, but we've gotten one step out of the way, the first command, and then we're ready to type this command that kicks off the second step. Now, an important prerequisite here is, do we have workload going that we care about? I do not. I already checked that I've shut down all VMs that I care about. My vCenter VM is all set as well. It'll shut down. And, you know, if we're in production here, we need to be in maintenance mode. So I just need to point that out, that you want to quiesce all workload that you care something about. All right. And once we kick off the command, we're going to see a screen that looks an awful lot like that. So now we can see that WinSCP is finished. Trying to reduce clutter and keep it as simple looking as possible. Let's now do what the directions tell us to do. Type that command, ESX CLI software bib update. Carefully typing. Okay, depot equals slash times. If I hit tab, it doesn't work. That's just the way it goes with this command. So we got to get it right from the first shot. And it's telling us the name of the file. Okay, no type ahead. Relying on accurate typing here. All right, I never did an ls again, but that is the file name without the file part at the end, because it's now done transferring. Remember, we know that because we saw it completed in WinSCP. All right, I'm proofreading very carefully my work here. What exactly did I type? And making sure all the characters look perfect. Notice there's no carriage return. I just typed dash dash. It auto-wrapped. Okay, now if we get it wrong, basically won't do anything or give an error, generally. If we get it right, it should look an awful lot like this. Notice it warns me it may take several minutes to return the cursor. So this is expected. Can watch the clock here. So after we see that, and it says something along the lines of result successful, we reboot the ESXi host. And then we're good to go. And we're going to see a new patch level shown at the top of ESXi. Okay, so that's the gist of the easy way to patch. Now you're better off setting up Update Manager, which is harder. But then patches after that are even easier. But I suspect there's a lot of folks out there who haven't bothered to set up Update Manager. So this is a good way to just quickly get it done with some fairly basic tools that you might be familiar with, like WinSCP and PuTTY. I'll just keep the clock ticking. I might speed up this part of the video just to get right to the good part where it's finished with the patch. Okay. It's a good sign. No need to speed up the video. It's done. Well, so I don't know. It took 2 or 3 minutes. So it's looking like it's saying exactly what we expected it to say, and it's ready for us to reboot. So in my case, there goes VMware. So naturally, I'm actually logged into the vCenter. It's going to bump me, obviously. That appliance that I'm running through is shutting down, and then the whole ESXi host is rebooting. So I'm going to resume this video when that is done. Naturally, this putty session is going to break as well. And we're done with the real-time clock need. So in about 3-4 minutes, we should be rebooted. Taking a break here and resuming the video after the patch is up. Okay, resume the video just a few minutes later here. And naturally, you can see connection loss complaining up here, vSphere client. So we can't connect yet because it's actually rebooting. Let me show you the reboot screen here. I can actually record that and show you. And there we go. Sorry about the funny colors, but you get the idea. So VMware's doing a normal reboot. It's not going to look special, but you do see a new build number, 76811. Okay. And that's what we're going to see in the vSphere client when we log in and take a look. And doing a quick Googling here, we can see that's what's expected. So that bundle we just did gets you this version when you're done. It'd be nice if the two match, but they don't. All right. When that's done loading, naturally we'll want to log in and confirm that everything seems good. And now we'll get started with the next piece. So this putty session is obviously dead. If we click here with the mouse, it acts funny, and there we go. So we're done with that. And let me just make a nice screenshot of that for the blog. There we go. There, perfect shot. And now close that window. Okay, and my ESXi host is up, so that's good. I can log into it now. Actually, the vCenter appliance is probably not quite up yet. Need to give it a little more time to boot for that to show up. Okay, I actually have auto start off at the moment. All right, notice there's our patch level 768.111. So we've done it. We're now ready to install we're ready to install Windows 8, and we should get the latest version of tools now that we've done things right. I'm taking a moment to get things just right. So when vCenter is done booting, we're ready to go ahead and configure Windows 8 virtual machine and install it. I'm going to go ahead and, let it finish. Okay, when we see that come up, we'll go ahead and connect the vSphere client back to vCenter. That's important. Again, that's a free appliance download. Even with the free hypervisor, there's really no excuse other than time and effort to get that appliance It makes your life a lot easier because you can now clone by right-clicking on a VM or making a template out of it, sort of a read-only VM. You right-click, deploy from a template, so now you can make 5 copies of Windows 8 to horse around with very quickly. So this isn't really a template deployment training video, it's really how to install Windows 8 video. But whether you used vSphere client connected to an ESXi host directly, like it is now, or to this thing called vCenter, a Linux-based appliance you download for free, it doesn't matter. The install of Windows 8 is exactly the same. Okay, so now I'm ready to reconnect. And at last, after about, 16 minutes of getting the patching done, we're ready to install Windows 8. And here we go. Right-click, New Virtual Machine. We're going to do a typical install. That's fine. Let's call it Windows 8 x64. And it's going to be a template, so I start like this. All right, that's my template name. That's my folder name on the file system. That's what it's going to be called. Anything else needed? Well, it is Pro. So because it is a variant of Windows 8, let's put that in there. Kind of a long name, but that's all right. Putting it on my fastest file system to get this install going fast. And I'm going to pick Windows 8 64-bit. Next, I'm going to leave the network adapter type alone. Later we can change that for an optimal faster driver. Disk. Network adapter. Now we're on the disk screen. I do something called thin provisioning. I pretend that I have a big disk drive. That way I can move it around or throw data in there and not have to worry about repartitioning. I do have to keep very careful watch of running out of disk space on the ESXi data store where this lives. It's giving me a warning. You're doing something a little dumb there. Okay, edit the virtual machine settings. I do want to do that. There's several things I need to do. The easiest to do first is to remember to go to the DVD, say you want a data store file and you want it connected at power on, and we have to point to the ISO file. In my case, it lives right here. Let's do a sort by date, and you'll see the August downloads right at the top. We're doing 64-bit Windows 8. Okay, so the ISO is now mounted at boot. Next important tweak would be you can change CPUs and memory if you want. Video card you can also change. And in general, my installs do auto detect, enable 3D support. Although that might not be important anymore now that Arrow is disabled. And I don't know if I'm going to get the WDDM VMware driver from VMware Tools or not. So I may need to revisit this, but at this moment in time, that's what I'm doing, the same thing I did with the release preview. Next, we head over to the Options tab. We go to Boot Options, and we click on EFI for the BIOS type. And click Finish. Okay, that should be it. Now we're ready to go ahead and test out what I just created. Let's get the console visible. Let's give some room to see what's going on. Hit the power switch and step back and watch. Click on the window there and hit any key. So I didn't hit the key fast enough. So this is one of the side effects from EFI BIOS. You kind of got to be ready. So force it off. Okay, let's get ready. Less talking, more thinking. Okay, we hit power, click on the window, and hit the space bar to boot from CD. Now the install is underway. I did a rehearsal, so I know this is going to work. Okay, just click Next. Click Install. There is no upgrade. There's nothing on this blank hard drive we just created. 750 gig in size. And there it goes. Let's get a real-time clock over here. So we'll leave this running in a spot that doesn't block anything important going on. So 5:33, the install itself has actually begun. Everything up to that point was preparations, patching, and walking through the configuration. But here's the actual work being done. This is admittedly a RAID 0 of 2 very fast solid-state drives. Since it only takes 2-3 minutes, I'm probably not going to bother editing this video and speeding up beyond real time. Okay, you can see it's pretty remarkably fast. Okay, the clock on the bottom right corner is now hitting 5:35. So we're all of 2 minutes in. Let's see what it asks next. Now this is where it would hang. You get that spinning animation. And if we picked Windows 8 but didn't pick UEFI BIOS, we would have a nice solid hang at this point. So important to point that out. Also, the BIOS, the motherboard, the physical system running this ESXi workload needs to be 64-bit compatible, needs to have no execute protection enabled. There's some features to look into. So there are some prerequisites to running 64-bit OSs. This video is really assuming you had Windows 7 64-bit working fine on your ESXi host. And now we're coming up in 3 minutes, and it looks like we're on our second reboot. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to give it an appropriate name. Windows ignores case, but use Express. Sign in without a Microsoft account. This is going to be a base template to deploy other virtual machines from. So I'm going to do a local login. I don't want to do Hotmail or Outlook.com login at this time. Okay, it's 5:37. So it took 4 minutes to get to this introductory video where it insists on giving us a little demonstration of how to use Windows 8 with a mouse. We wait for it to complete. It's killing a little time. And it's giving us a visual to help us, a new user, discover that the corners are important in Windows 8. Later, we're going to get into remote desktop where you want the Windows key to send to a remote desktop version of Windows 8. A much better way to run Windows 8 than using the vSphere client, especially if you use full screen, or even better, multiple monitor full screen. So this performance can be quite good, is what I'm finding. I've got 3 monitors in front of me can handle it quite well. Okay, we're there. So the install is done, the video is done. I didn't click anything, I just waited. And we're at our desk at 5:38. So 5 minutes. Now, there's our desktop. Build number always shows, which is interesting. I'm going to make sure icons always show. I want you to see that we're about to install VMware tools. Okay, now if we look at our screen resolution now, yeah, we can change it. And if we look at our device driver now, we'll see that our display adapter is Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. It's probably going to stay that way, but let's find out. So I'm going to do a full install of VMware tools. I want this to be a versatile, flexible, lab-based template that can be moved around among different products, virtualization platforms. So if we go to right-click on the virtual machine and say Guest, Install Tools, gives this little pop-up warning, and this is where it's mounting an ISO to the VM and triggering an auto run of VMware tools install. And now that we have the latest version of ESXi 5.0, we should get the latest tools. In only a couple of weeks, when I'm in San Francisco for VMworld 2012, perhaps they're releasing ESXi 5.1, at which time I'll end up with a new version of tools. Perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. Something to keep in mind, though. You kind of want the latest version of tools. And kind of makes sense. This product actually, Windows 8 that you're looking at, doesn't come out till October 26th, general availability. Okay, VMware Tools install is ready for me to click Next. I'm going to do a complete install and let her rip and just wait. It's finished. And it's ready for a reboot. Okay, let's clean up a little. Let me move those out of the way, the ones I'm not using right now. All right, so this template that we're working on, it needs a little attention now. We're basically done installing on it, right? We got VMware tools installed, got the lovely Seattle landscape showing, we got a wrong clock. So we're ready to tweak time and finish up. And then when it's done, we'll make it a read-only template and then deploy a virtual machine from it. Okay, so there's our template. What does it need? Well, right-click, put it to settings. We no longer want it trying to connect to that ISO file. In fact, we can just click there and point to the client device. Right? So we don't need to be trying to see that ISO file at every boot. Install is done. What else do we need to do? Well, I already hinted at it. At the desktop, we should probably go and say adjust day and time and set our time zone accordingly, which for me is Eastern time, and turn off internet clock setting because I'm going to have tools do that instead. So now we run tools and have time sync right there. All right. Let's see what version of tools we have. There you go. Look that up. What did it do? I don't know yet. Let's take a look. Device Manager tells me that it did not touch the display adapter. All right, but it certainly did touch their LSI adapter. That's virtual. It touched the mouse because I can move the mouse off seamlessly now. And the mouse doesn't seem that jumpy, so I'm not real worried about the video driver. Maybe we just end up leaving it. Probably won't know until, November or something, what VMware's best practices recommendation for this client will be. What I really care about is getting remote desktop going for a smoother, faster experience with the mouse. So if we go and look at remote settings, we want to turn this on. Okay, and I've got a little script next to me of things I do with my VMs. And there's something else here. We want to get the optimal network adapter. So instead of doing at this point, we're really done with a basic install of Windows 8. And you can go ahead and copy it or whatever you want to do with it. Just clone, right? There's that word. Or turn it into a template, clone to template. Lots of options. But there's a few little tweaks I do in a lab environment that just make this easier to use. And let me show you. And faster too. Best practices really. So now we're moving into the best practices part of the video. 30 minutes in here. 31 minutes in. Network adapter, that's not the optimal network adapter. So let's take care of that. Remove the one that was there and add this one. VMXNet 3. Knowledge base explains why, but that's basically faster network adapter. Okay, that wasn't too hard. If you do that during install, I believe Windows 8 will complain because it can't find a network and it barks warnings at you. So it's better, you're better off just doing it after. Okay, next thing I do is auto login. So now, here you can see Device Manager just found that network. And there you go. So if we click here, or right-click here, and say Open Network and Sharing Center, private network. So it detected we're on a home network here. All right? DHCP is on by default. We're good there. Next, configure auto login. So if I hit the Windows key and Q, I get search. netplwiz.exe and hit enter. Brings this up. Turn off the insistence of typing a password at every reboot. Lab environment again, that's just one of those little touches that's nicer. Okay, next thing. For a virtual machine, you don't really want screensavers. So there's none configured, but let's look at power. Do we want the display to ever go blank? No. There is no physical display. So the answer is no. Stay alive. Okay, next. Disable password protection when resuming from sleep. Gotta look that one up. Under advanced, I believe. I'm having trouble remembering where that is. Let's try under here. It's not a laptop. Okay, so it's not there. I think I can find it. So Windows key and Q for search. And let's go into the settings for the global search here. Require password when the computer wakes. So typing the word resume got me what I wanted. And I should have looked at my cheat sheet notes. I had written that down. So notice. Still not seeing it. Well, it's set to never sleep, so it's not going to show. So we're good. Okay, let's move on. Personalization. Not really a huge fan of the default floral thing, so this would be your chance to change that. You can get more themes online if you want. Moving along, Task Manager. One thing I do with remote VMs, I like to know if the virtual machine itself thinks it's kind of busy. So I do this. I go File, New, Shortcut, type taskmanager.exe, mgr.exe, just hit Enter. Give it a name of Task Manager. I've been doing this for a decade. And now I've got a handy-dandy shortcut that I can change the properties and say Start Minimize. Okay. And now we test this thing we just created. We open it, click on More Details, Performance, and I say Hide when minimized. And you might like it always on top. Okay, so now we've got a handy icon, and dragging it to the Start folder is no longer a straightforward affair. So I'm going to have to work on that. For now, I'm just going to leave Task Manager pinned to the taskbar. And eventually I'm going to work on it in a way so that it always shows in the system tray when you boot here. Let's move on. It's not really urgent. Turn on remote desktop we did. Reboot, clock set. And Windows Update. Windows Update is on by default because I picked the easy config. So if we type Windows Update, under Settings, hit down arrow and hit Enter, and hit Enter again. There we go. There's Windows Update. It's set for automatic. And apparently there's one out there already. Okay. So there's Windows Update. You might not necessarily want it in your base template because, of course, when you first boot that, a month or two from now, it's going to be very busy. It's CPU and that virtual machine will keep it busy for a while. Interesting that there's an update now because there wasn't a few hours ago when it came out. Okay, and then finally, we hit the Windows key after clicking on that window to give it focus. If we look over here, we'll see the Action Center might be barking something. So just to, whoops, it's not, okay, the Action Center is not barking any complaints right now, right here. It's activating Windows, but I'm not going to do that before, for a template for sure. All right, so I didn't really need to run the troubleshooter. So we're done. We've turned off DVD, and we're ready to clone the template. And we also have auto login. So if we reboot, we'll see that it's extremely fast. Let's do it now. Control-Alt-Insert. It's one way to restart. We could also do Windows key plus C for charms, and then click the little power icon that comes up and do a restart that way. And then since Tools is installed, we can actually do a restart right from here as well, right up here, or guest, power reset. Gotta be careful because that could be a forcible reset. So depending on how you have things set up. Okay, so we're good there. Got it working. And before we shut it down, I'd say we give it a little test that this template's really done. So Windows 8 Pro X64 is the name. Very carefully, we got to look for options. Okay, that should fit reasonably in the video window I'm recording. We definitely need the Windows key to go on the remote computer. So even in a window, we got to pass that through to the remote VM. That's important in Windows 8. Crank all this stuff on. So yeah, we're ready to go ahead and connect. Don't ask me again. And there we go. We have a good experience with logging in over remote desktop. And a very snappy experience with the mouse, obviously. Great performance. And of course, you can actually turn this on, use all my monitors for the remote session, and it'll do 3 monitors that I have right now, and they'll just automatically work, and they're fast. Okay, so that's all good. We're ready to shut down. Remember, we have multiple ways to do it. We can hit Windows C, brings up that, and notice we only have disconnect because we're using a remote desktop. So a little trick there would be Windows Q, CMD. I'm sorry, what's the shortcut for command prompt? Either way, we can type this. So if we're in a remote session and we just want to reboot, we can do that. All right. So in 5 seconds, it triggered a reboot. What if you want to do a shutdown? We talked about that as well. Notice it automatically logged me in, didn't prompt me for password, which is awesome. So shutdown guest is gray. What does that mean? Well, probably means VMware Tools just hasn't quite had time to come up yet. I'm hoping. So that is the case. Once VMware Tools comes up, we're able to do a clean shutdown. Okay, we're getting near the end here. We're now ready to right-click and say convert to template. And it disappears. That might scare you. Don't worry about it. Just go to VMs and templates. And now your giant list of stuff has this new template we just created. And we want to right-click on that and say deploy virtual machine from this template. And now we can call it something. Whoa, hang on. Hit the wrong key. Now we can call it something sensible like Windows 8 Pro x64. That's its host name. That could be its file system name on the VMFS file system. Just keeping it simple. Now I'm probably going to make many of them. So I might go with -1, -2, whatever scheme you come up with. Let's click next. This host is where I want it. This Windows 8 folder is where it's going. Resource pool actually, but just makes the video clearer. Same fast RAID array. I want it thin provision still, which is the source format, so it'll take up very little disk space. And we can go ahead and have that. We do want to customize it, change file name, host name and all that. We don't need to get fancy and use that. If we do want a customization wizard, you have to get into sysprep. That's kind of beyond the scope of this video. Let's just say power on the VM after it's done, and click finish. So now we head back to hosts and clusters view, a view we're more accustomed to. And the bottom we can see it's cloning. How big a data set is it cloning? Well, let's look. Under storage, data store browser, we can poke our way right over there and see that alphabetical sort will help. Got a lot of stuff on here. It's going to be under completed. Oh my gosh, that was quick. It's completed already. And it's booting. Goodness. Almost missed the whole thing. That's interesting. So because we deployed from a template, and I believe it changed the virtual hardware in there, we know we changed the network adapter, for instance, at one point, but this time it changed something else more serious. Windows is kicking off its initial introductory video. All right, so where does that file live? Right here, summary. Lives on the SSD RAID, and you'll see the amount of storage, 11 gig. If we browse the data store and try to find what we're talking about here, here's the file system, and it's using, 9 gig plus 2 gig of swap. Okay, moving right along. We're back. We've got a VM now created, ready to use, ready to kick the tires, ready to do whatever you want, including simply reconnecting over RDP and making sure sound works, at which point I think we're really done with showing everything I wanted to show in this video. If sound works, we're good to go. So what's the good way to test sound remotely? How about a Windows Q for search? Type in sound, but hit down arrow so we're searching in settings. And that didn't work so well. Hang on. There we go. Sound. I'd say that was a success. Let's see what kind of speed we get scrolling through video in this window. Looks pretty good. That's about it. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video overview of installing Windows 8 Pro in a virtual machine under ESXi helpful, and you realize that this thing could be extremely fast. Yes, you can install in a VMware workstation. That's probably more typical. But I was curious how it works with the latest version of VMware tools. And earlier I mentioned it was January, February when I left my unpatched ESXi host there. Now let's see what version of VMware tools we got this time around. Mouse will do it. VMware pointing device. See the date on there. Ooh, that's old. How about storage controller? Much newer. So there you go. And network adapter, I'm kind of curious about that one. We obviously have this optimized fast Ethernet adapter working. That one's, so it's kind of a mixed bag about what you get. But it's definitely newer than what I had. So there we have it. Thank you for watching, and as always, your comments greatly appreciated.